Hi, Karen here from the Motoroamers. Welcome to our latest video on our Wellbeing Resource Library, helping us to cope with COVID. And today I'm so happy to introduce our friend and fellow nomad traveling lover, Sarah. Sarah.
Hi, Karen.
Hi there. Sarah comes to us with a huge amount of experience and as a practitioner of home education. And I think right now this is a really hot topic as kids are off school, at home, and parents are in a very unusual situation of trying to balance the role of being parent and also teacher. So Sarah is going to share some of her experiences. And Sarah, it's great to have you here so that you can talk to us about being a home ed practitioner. So a huge welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yeah. So perhaps you could just tell us as a starting point, tell us a bit of your backstory.
Up until I was 50, I was relatively conventional. Although in my early 30s, I did take in a year out and rode a motorcycle from Canada to Chile. And then I pretty much just went back to normal life, as you do. Fast forward a few years, 20 odd years, I find myself at the age of 50 with a 10-year-old daughter living in London, doing a 60-hour week, traveling 3 hours a day to get to the office, and employing an au pair to do all those fun things with my daughter. I'd already had a camper for a few years, and I made the decision to just pack up and head off, hit the road, and take another year out, with a view to just kind of picking up normal life again when we got back a year later. Only, you know, as you know, these sorts of trips often have much deeper impact on you and how you choose to live your life going forward. So once we returned back to the UK in the August 2017, we had jointly made the decision then, my daughter and I, Tabitha and I, that she wouldn't go back into school, and I wouldn't go back into a conventional job. The first part of the trip was a real journey of discovery, and I suspect that a lot of parents are experiencing right now what I experienced in the first few weeks of the trip, when I tried to just create myself as some kind of all-round amazing mummy educator. That was never going to work. It was a disaster, and at that point I really had to reevaluate exactly how we were going to live in close quarters in a small space, and how we were both going to approach the educational part of her life and my life. That was a real steep learning curve. So we navigated that. And since returning into the UK, so Tabitha was 11 and a half, nearly 12 when we got back. She would have been starting secondary school year 7, and we started to get a bit more structured around what we were doing educationally. We weren't traveling full time anymore, so the opportunities that you get to educate on the road weren't as available. So, you know, there isn't quite the same frisson of excitement to doing the budgeting in good old, you know, home currency, or doing the shopping in your native language, or, you know, those, and visiting local attractions for your history or your geography. And you get all that on the road as a natural byproduct of traveling. So we needed to shift our focus and become a bit more structured. And also one of the reasons why we became static at that time was Tabitha wanted to have the experience of being involved in clubs and groups. She's a very social person, so am I. And she wanted to stay still for a little while and have those friendships, build those friendships, join a netball team, go into a drama class and stuff like that. So that was also part of my responsibility at that point, was to find all of those outlets and activities and study groups and so on for her.
So I guess you must really empathize with parents who have been who haven't made the choice to be home editors, who have been thrown into this uncertain world with the kids at home, being informed, asked to perform this brand new role that they didn't choose.
Terrifying.
Yeah, it must be. So you've got that empathy as a parent who made a choice. What would you say are the biggest challenges for parents out there who didn't make that lifestyle choice and who have suddenly got this parent-teacher shift to try and make?
I can't imagine. It must actually really be quite terrifying, especially for the older age group. And I think the temptation and the stress of that will be causing all manner of arguments, stress and fear amongst families up and down the country right now. My one single piece of advice from the outset is just take a minute, take a week. Don't full force throttle into trying to recreate school at home.
Okay, yeah.
Don't panic about kids dropping behind. They will catch up. They will catch up massively, especially the smalls, the little ones. They're like sponges. You just need to provide some resources for them. Take your foot off the accelerator and let them process what's going on. Because not only have you as a parent lost that whole educational framework, your kids have lost their whole routine. They've lost their social life. They've lost all of that security of knowing that they're going to go to school tomorrow, and they might want to go to school tomorrow, but in reality they're going to see a load of their friends, they're going to play in the playground, they're going to have that face-to-face interaction, they're going to know that it's pizza and chips on Friday for lunch, all of these regular things that even as adults we rely on to define our world. They've just vanished, and you've got a massive gaping black hole to fill. Don't feel the need to rush in, sticking a mortarboard on your head and erecting a chalkboard in the kitchen, you know. That way madness lies, I'm pretty certain. So whilst you're taking that time, actually communication is just the key. It is across all walks of life. Communication is the key. Actually communicate that to your kids in an age appropriate way. Just, these are exceptional times and everything's changed, and I understand that you are feeling bereft and lost. We're just going to have a few days off. We're not going to barrel straight into anything. Actually have that conversation with them. Let them know that you support them in having a little bit of time to just let the dust settle and work out how it's all going to be and how you need as a parent to really pay attention to how your children are reacting to what's going on, and also maybe pay a bit more attention to the way that they learn. Are they visual learners? Do they like to learn in a group? Do they interact? Do they learn best from interaction, or are they a book kid? Listen to them. Take your lead from them. But have that conversation with them and say, you know, the Xbox and Netflix and, you know, Facebook, all of those social media things and games and what have you, that's okay, but it's, you know, we're not going to do that indefinitely. I assumed the teacher role, Tabitha was exceedingly resistant to that.
Because your mum, You know, you have a clear role as being mummy, and suddenly you're trying to empower yourself as teacher. That must be mind blowing for you both.
I was quite full of enthusiasm for being this, you know, wonderful teacher. And I say now, people say to me now, oh God, you're amazing. There's no way I could teach my child. And I immediately say, I don't teach her. I mentor her. I guide her. We talk a lot about what she's interested in. And that's a bit of a fine line for us, because if she expresses an interest in something and I go, whoa, that's amazing. Let's do this. And then she'll go, no. You can also, sometimes you can overwhelm them with your own enthusiasm for what they want to do, and they immediately go, nah, I'm not interested anymore, mum.
So kids are fickle then, that's what we're saying.
Yeah, for sure. You have to be led by them.
Yeah.
And you can't take over. It's a really fine line.
Isn't it?
Taking that bit of time to let the dust settle, and then be led by them. Talk to them.
Brilliant.
Ask them, you know, what do you like doing in school? If they're very small, if they're, you know, primary age, what do you like doing? And how do you do that? And how does your teacher do that? And, you know, how could we do that? Would you like to do it the same way? You know, empower them.
Fabulous. Yeah.
To let you know, see how they are going to connect best. And ultimately, remember that this isn't forever. When they go back into school, they will catch up.
Yeah.
You know,
they're resilient.
They are. It's amazing how they're able to catch up. But also crank in some life skills. Get them cooking. Get them there at home more often. Give them a bit more autonomy around how they spend their time.
Okay.
Get them, I don't know, doing some jobs in the garden and so on.
Yeah.
The number of experiences personally, I know people whose children have gone back into school after home ed. They've gone back in after a long-term travel. They've started from what we call an unschooling background, which is absolutely no structured learning at all. They may not have a times table memorized. They may not know Henry VIII's wives. They may not know the Battle of 1066. But they frequently are assessed as being ahead of their peers in their reading skills, their critical thinking skills, and those, you know, their mathematical skills, their applied learning skills. They can read the classics. They can, you know, do the algebra worksheets, and catch up on all of that. We had to redefine the way we communicated the first 3 to 6 months on the road. The language that I was using was switching her off. Anything that was teachy, anything that was, you know, because I was convinced that she was going to write a blog, and she was going to be this amazing, you know, child blogger and have 1 million followers, and, you know, and she was going to be all over social media and so on. Obviously didn't happen. She wrote a couple of blogs, but
that was your vision, not hers.
It was. Exactly. It was what I wanted for her. But whenever I wanted her to write something, she was like, well, I'm not writing anything. Been an adult, you know, one of these adult colouring books. And she had stolen it from me and was colouring one evening. And each picture had a quote or a piece of prose or poetry attached to it. And I think it was Keats. I think there was a stanza from a Keats poem. And for the rest of the week, she was writing poetry.
Oh, that's amazing.
Completely hands off on that, purely and simply because she wanted to do it. And that's the kind of autonomy that we have as home educating parents, who operate the way we do with this kind of loose structure. Very often we talk about child-led and self-directed.
Absolutely.
And those are, child-led is a method that we we buy into, and self-directed is a skill that we try to really support them in. You've got a really limited amount of time here. I mean,
Sure.
even if this whole situation continues for 4 to 6 months, it's a small amount of time in the grand scheme of in the grand scheme of things, and in the grand scheme of their whole school education. But this is a perfect opportunity,
isn't it,
for you to empower your kids and support them to figure out, it's a bit of time, isn't it? What really makes you tick? Especially for those kids that perhaps are in key stage 3, just step away from the fear of being left holding the can. The flip side of that is school kids are used to routine, and they're used to timetables, and their well-being. There's an element of their well-being that is based in those structures and those boundaries. Watch their reactions, see how they're doing, and if you feel that your child would benefit better from saying, right, 10 till 12, we're gonna do work. So you can have a lie-in, you can have a late breakfast, and the afternoon you can spend all afternoon on your Xbox, but 10 till 12 we're going to do some work in maybe 20-minute blocks.
Now, I think what I'm taking from all of this is that don't rush in as a parent to be teacher, because your primary role is being mum or dad, and dad. Don't try and fulfill that role as teacher, because you've got highly capable teachers out there who will be back into the mainstream soon. Communicate with your kids, understand their learning styles, and step back and watch what it is that they need. Ask them what it is they need, and then develop either a structure, loose or tight, depending on what your child needs or their age group, that might specify what you do with them.
Yes, absolutely. It's putting the child at the center of it, their well-being. They're not yours. Worst case scenario, absolutely, theirs, not yours. Worst case scenario, they play Minecraft or Xbox or whatever for 3 months. I don't think they will. Think they will.
They get bored.
But you may need to let them have a bit more time doing that. The main thing is just not to come in as the big heavy, saying, right, that's it, Xbox, you're banned, that's confiscated, you're not having it back until you go back to school. Well, that's just going to be painful for everybody. I bet there's a bunch of parents out there that are doing the virtual quizzes, and they're doing Zoom to catch up with their friends and family, and Facebook Messenger. Actually you can use those for your kids. So if they've got a couple of friends in school, perhaps the older ones, set them up on Zoom, let them do their work together in a Zoom, as well as using the technology to do any schoolwork that they need to do or that you want them to do. Use technology as well to keep their social going. Watch party, house party, set them up, do some crazy things, have a pajama party via Zoom, do the pizza, and they can all hang out in their pajamas in their bed eating pizza, and just give them that outlet, because they need to talk to their peers about what's going on. They need to talk to each other about how this whole situation has affected them. And those kids that haven't got exams this year and they're not going to have a prom, that's devastating. They need really strong connections with their friends to work through those disappointments. It's breaking my heart for them.
And they need a support mechanism with their peer group to help them release all that pent-up frustration and stress and upsets.
And when if they say to you as a parent, you don't understand. You don't. This is really unique.
No,
We
absolutely.
don't understand.
No. And I think this whole experience is affecting every layer of society in totally different ways that we can't even begin to get our heads around. We can only understand how it might feel for us.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's a really valid point, Karen, because again, with the older ones, Tabitha's 14, so I know I'm focusing more on the older ones, but you know, it's really okay to sit down with them and say, I'm kind of freaked as well.
Yeah.
You know, you can, at an age appropriate way, say, I know, you know, you might have been put on furlough, and you can have those conversations with them and say, you know, I'm not used to not going to work, and you know, money's going to be a bit tight, and I'm a little bit worried about that, and you can have that conversation with them.
What about the younger kids who don't have that same capability to understand things at that intellectual level? What sort of things can we do for those kids?
It's really tricky when they're smaller, and I think that, again, the younger the child, I think the better they respond to a routine. So trying to get a routine, explain that to them, you know, to start with. They might even feel better if you put a couple of charts up, telling them that what day of the week it is, the day, the date, differentiate between the weekdays and the weekends.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, they don't know what day of the week it is.
I don't know what day of the week it is.
None of us know anymore. None of us know. No. But when you're 5, 4, 5, 6, you know, even 7, your school schedule tells you what day it is. Fish and chips on Friday. Do not sit down and start trying to teach them how to tell the time, or how to read, or how to do numbers, you know, number maths, because, well, unless you're a qualified teacher, because sure as hell the methods they're using today aren't the ones that we learnt. No. I think the schools are providing work. As far as I know, there are some worksheets coming out.
Good. Primary
school children often have such beautiful relationships with their teachers. And if you're struggling to bring your child into doing that learning, then you know, leverage that. You know, Mrs. Jones would be so happy if you could show her this. And that feels a little bit manipulative to me, but if it works
for your
environment, and if you're worried, even though your child might be resistant to doing the work, they may also be anxious about not doing it as well. The resource list that I'll share with you later, there's a whole bunch of primary school resources. Twinkle is a big one that home ed people use, and they've made that free for a month. So many free resources. The long-term effects of this, especially with the younger children, reconnecting now, finding out what kind of learner they are, what makes them tick, is going to give you so much valuable insight to support them going forward.
Wonderful.
You know, when they do go back to school, you'll have had this amazing experience of working out who they are in an educational environment. It's not just a holiday when you're running around doing holiday things, because you're all forced to stay at home. So the pace of life has really slowed down, and you've got so much more time to connect. I'm seeing a great deal more of my daughter now than I was 3 weeks ago. She is coming out to interact, you know, much more than she used to, and we're having a right old giggle, really. It's nice.
That's so important. So lovely that you can still have fun with your child, however old they are, without feeling like you said earlier, putting this mortarboard on because now I've got to be teacher. It's just step back and you know, don't feel pressure, because the minute you're tight as a parent, that energy gets translated into your child.
Oh, absolutely. They so pick up on it, you know. And it's kind of situation normal for us, really. The only thing that's changed is 2 of Tabitha's study groups have gone on to Zoom.
Right.
So instead of meeting in person, and they're definitely missing each other, and they are adapting to the Zoom lessons. They're not finding it as easy. It's much easier to be distracted when you're on a Zoom, or to zone out and realize you've missed a whole section of the topic. But they have just transitioned, and we're just plodding along as we were before. We just need to work out what's going to happen with exams, because that's a challenge for us. We fall completely through the cracks with the provision for exams. So that's our challenge this week at the moment. It's terrifying to be presented with this enormous amount of work from school, this massive expectation, all on the back of potentially being furloughed. Or what if you're somebody who's transitioned to working from home and you've got the kids at home as well with all of their learning? You know, take a deep breath, try to step back, look at it objectively, listen, communicate, have those conversations, empower them where they're old enough. I mean, even the smalls, even the 4s and 5s, you can empower them by asking them to help you. Can you help me to help you? Because I don't know what happens when you're in school all day. So you can find so many ways to tap into the best, you know, your kid best.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things you said earlier, just as we bring today to a close, that I just thought was so powerful, is that you are parent first and foremost. You are being put in this potential teacher role, although don't be teacher, be mentor, be the guide, be the coach who takes them through, rather than, you know, putting your mortarboard on and getting the chalkboard out and trying to be teacher, because you're not.
No, absolutely.
Try and fulfill a role that guides and supports them, ready for when they go back to the school context.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have that, explain that to them. Be gentle on yourself as well as a parent. You know, we're all under house arrest. Everybody's nerves are frayed. You know, we're all going to have moments where we're a bit short-tempered. Have the courage to say, it's not working, you know, let's just stop for now. If they're going off the deep end, give them permission to stop. Don't keep flogging on if it's not working, because they're not learning. Bake a cake, you know, get out in the garden,
play,
do something. Exactly. Take the dog for a walk, do something else, and come back to it later. There's no rush.
Sarah, this is absolutely brilliant. What a fabulous talk this has been. And actually, I feel really energized on behalf of parents, having listened to you, because what you've actually done is you've given permission to parents to be chilled out around this, and not to feel the stress and pressure, whether that's explicit pressure or implicit pressure. And just allow things to flow in your family household, and to work together as a family unit. How amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's been really nice, actually.
It's been
nice to articulate some of the stuff that we do and think about how we operate, and feel just really grateful that I have the opportunity to home educate. We're very lucky.
Absolutely great. And thank you so much for sharing your practice, as well as your top tips. I just think it's going to be so helpful to parents who are out there in the vortex right now, living with the uncertainty of what to do.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
And of course, just before we go, I think it's really important just to acknowledge, bless you, thank you for giving up your time to us so freely. Although I am going to give you an opportunity to just plug your little online business, because I think it's only right and reasonable to do that. So in 60 seconds, tell us about Mahobo.
Oh, well, Mahobo is my online shop. I sell t-shirts. This is one of my new designs, Peace, Love, Dub. Men's and women's t-shirts and mugs and all things camper van and motorhome related. Lovely gifts. So this year was going to be our big show and festival year, but obviously we've been stopped in our tracks. So yeah, it's mahobo.co.uk. Come and have a look if you've got a camper van or a motorhome, or if you know somebody with a camper van or a motorhome. Lovely gifts. We are currently able to supply gift vouchers because our supply chain has been shut down. So we're not able to produce any products at the moment, but we very much appreciate any support. If anybody can buy a gift voucher, Father's Day is coming up. Little plug there. So yeah, that's Mahobo.
Wonderful, great. Well, let's hope that we can get some traffic your way and support. I think it's so important. Let's support these online businesses and to keep the economy going, to keep, you know, each and every one of us going in our own individual ways. If we can do that as a way of thanking you for today, then it's a small step we can take.
Oh, thank you. Be very grateful for any support.
Absolutely. Well, there we go. Some home ed guidance from our practitioner, Sarah. I hope you've all found it really useful. So grateful that you were able to take part in this, Sarah. Thanks so much. And for now, this is Karen from the Motoroamers signing out. Bye for now.